Hello, the chair, committee members, and members of the public. My name is Tatiana Arnaud. I am your city engineer. And this presentation is related to Senate Bill 1 or SB1, Road Maintenance Rehabilitation Account, or we reference as RMRA, project list for fiscal year 2022-23. So the recommendation is that the Public Works and Transportation Committee recommend that the City Council adopt a resolution to first adopt the fiscal year 2022-23 project list of SB1 proposed projects that will be funded in part or solely with road maintenance and rehabilitation account revenues, and second, authorize the city manager to take whatever actions are necessary and appropriate to carry out the purpose and intent of the resolution. So I think a lot of you may recall that in April of 2017, our governor at the time signed Senate Bill 1, also known as the Road Repair and Accountability Act of 2017, which increases fuel taxes and registration in order to provide the state with about $5.4 billion annually, basically to fix our roadways here in the state. It's distributed through several programs, and one of them is this one that we call RMRA, or the Roadway Maintenance and Rehabilitation Account. So that provides basically funding on a per capita basis for each city. The use is actually very restricted to road maintenance and rehabilitation, specifically when the PCI is below 79. Oxnard, whose current PCI is 65, we have specific and restricted uses. So basically, the PCI, since this program started, we started at a 61, and since then we've come up to a PCI of 65. That is not due specifically because of RMRA, but that's certainly helped. So it's been a combination of RMRA and then the recent Measure E funds that have really helped us bring these PCI numbers up. So as an overview, we are responsible for the maintenance and rehab of just over 1,000 lane miles, 70 alley miles, and then 61 parking lots total. I do have to note, though, that RMRA can only be used on our streets. We cannot use this in our alleys, and we cannot use it on our parking lots. So I just want to make that distinction there. It's all dedicated to basically our arterials and residential streets for the most part. We do have a consulting firm that basically performs street inspections. The way it works is they inspect 100% of our arterials every single year, and then they tackle a third of our residential and collector streets on a yearly basis. So basically, we have a complete up-to-date basically PCI number and inspection report for all of our city. And basically, the way we do it is like this: a third of the streets done every year, with the exception of arterials, which are done every single year. And basically what we do is we take that information, it gets dropped into a pavement management system, which we use to track our inventory, store any work history. So any work that we've done on our streets gets logged in this pavement management system. And it helps us also estimate the costs for rehabilitation and reconstruction as needed. The other purpose of it is to help us identify basically the next streets in the queue, if you will, that should be either rehabilitated or just that are due for maintenance, right? The more we maintain them, the less money it takes to restore them later. So that's what this pavement management system is used to do. The consultant at least uses various measurements to determine what the PCI is. This is not all inclusive, but this is generally what they're looking at. It's, how many cracks are there in a mile of pavement? How deep and long are these cracks? What is the pattern? And what percentage of a road segment displays deficiencies? These deficiencies and crack patterns can include, your alligator cracking, block cracking, longitudinal cracking, transverse cracking. So there's all these different patterns that they look at, and that helps kind of rope into what the pavement condition for each of those, because each of these requires its own repair methodology, which comes with its own cost, right? And so basically the patterns and the percentage of roadway segment are then entered into the Street Saver database, which is our pavement management system, basically. And this PCI is generated. So again, we use this information to determine the most cost-effective repair strategy. which basically is the simple formula is the cost of repair plus the life expectancy equals our annual maintenance costs. It's very and utterly important to time our repairs accurately to basically to minimize deferred maintenance. So the more that we let our streets deteriorate, the more expensive it'll be to get them back up to, a suitable standard. And so the more we maintain them, the less it costs us in the long run. So basically, that's what we're getting at here. This means not spending more than what is necessary on an annual basis on road maintenance. Now, right now, we are in the process of doing a lot of rehab work and reconstruction work to get our PCI up to 70. But once we get to 70, we'll basically continue reconstructing as needed, but it'll turn into a lot of maintenance after that. So we're on track right now for that, thankfully, again, due to RMRA, but also our Measure dollars that are coming in. So we're pretty optimistic about what our streets will look like here in the next few years. As far as the payment management system, Street Saver, this is a chart that it spits out for us as part of the program. We get these every few months, and it gives us a snapshot as far as the condition that our streets are in. So this was from the end of February here of this year. And so again, we're at a PCI of 65, and it'll show you the various different functional classes or the types of roads and what conditions those are in. So for instance, our arterials are the best rated up in the 70s, and then we have our collector residential that are in the mid 60s. And then really what's bringing a lot of these PCI numbers down a little bit is the alleyways. Those are down at a 31. So our alleys are 31 PCI right now. So again, we are doing some reconstruction of alleyways. That is not part of our RMRA funds. But nonetheless, this is just to give you an idea of kind of the analysis that program helps us put together. So, we take all this information that the payment management system spits out at us, and we, from there, again, determine the timing of the street repairs, and we do try to match them up with the pipe replacement projects, right? So if we have a neighborhood that's identified to be resurfaced in the next few years, we want to get ahead of that and replace any cast iron pipes that are past their useful life, so that we're not cutting into the street multiple times, especially not after we've resurfaced, right? That's the last thing we want to do. So we do take that into consideration. Although the program might say, hey, do these streets first, we might have to reshuffle them a little bit in order to get in the cast iron pipe replacement projects first. And then we also definitely look at how we can group them into just more condensed areas. We do, as a city of Oxnard, we do encompass a large geographical area. So the more we can keep them either within the same general corridors or the same general areas of the city, it'll help us save some money on mobilization and things of that nature with our contractors. So yeah, basically we use this payment management system as well as the knowledge we have with other projects that may cut into our streets, as well as grouping them to basically develop our street resurfacing program itself, if you will. And again, this is how we come up with, which ones would we be spending RMRA funding on, those that qualify, right? So basically our arterials, our collector, and residential streets. So I was talking a little bit earlier about some of the cracking patterns, right? Here on the very top left-hand side, you'll see some alligator cracking, a little bit of that here on the second photo as well. Then we're looking at some transverse cracking in the middle section. And then the rest of the photos are pretty much just active work that's happening. So we're seeing some potholes being done, some striping, some bike lanes, things of that nature, changing out our signs. So this is what our RMRA dollars are put towards, is to fix these conditions. So basically why we're here today is because the California Transportation Commission, or the CTC, requires that each agency adopt a resolution listing the projects that will be utilizing RMRA. And so here in the city of Oxnard, we are anticipated to receive and expend $4.6 million of RMRA for fiscal year 22-23. And then we're also obviously anything that we weren't able to spend through this last year, we're going to program for next year. Basically, there's some CIP projects that we use this for, which are the arterial street resurfacing and the neighborhood street resurfacing, which if you want to see the list of the specific streets, we've attached that to the staff report. But we also do apply this to some of our operational projects, two of which are the Public Works Road and Signal Maintenance. So that's for our streets division to be able to use to do the potholes and other repairs of that nature, and then for the annual pavement system upgrade. So every time that we have our consultant go out there and do an analysis, we do have RMRA dollars being spent on helping us maintain that pavement management system. So as far as the financial impact goes, the recommended action and resolution fulfills our state requirements, and it does not appropriate funds through this item. The actual funding will be requested and appropriated during the budgeting process for fiscal year 22-23. So this is just so that we fulfill the CTC requirements of having a resolution adopted with the project listing, and then the actual budget will come in through our typical budget process. So just want to make that clear. That does conclude this presentation. Thanks for your time, and I'm happy to take any questions.